Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Olive Branch and watched the stars change around her ship. After 3 months of travel through space, they were finally close to their destination. The Galactic Confederation had sent coordinates to a meeting point near the edge of their territory. Today would mark the first time humans had ever met with alien life. Sarah looked at her reflection in the dark window. She was 52 years old and had spent most of her life in the military. Her black hair was now mixed with gray, and lines showed around her eyes from years of command. But today felt different from any battle she had ever fought. Today she carried the hopes of all humanity. The ship around her was humanity's finest creation. The Olive Branch stretched nearly 2 kilometers long and housed the best Earth had to offer. In the cargo holds, they carried gifts for the aliens. There were paintings from every culture on Earth, music from Mozart to modern electronic compositions, and samples of Earth's literature translated into mathematical language that any advanced species could understand. Dr. James Wright, the mission's chief scientist, walked up beside her. He was a thin man with nervous energy who had spent his whole career dreaming of this moment. "Admiral, we're receiving the Confederation beacon. They're directing us to a station called Nexus Point 7. Sarah nodded. "How long until we arrive?" 6 hours. The station is massive, Admiral. Our sensors show it's at least 50 times larger than our biggest space station. Through the bridge windows, Sarah could see other ships moving in the distance. These were alien vessels with designs unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Some looked like living creatures with flowing curves and organic shapes. Others were geometric and angular, built from materials that seemed to shift and change. Color in the starlight, Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos approached with a datapad in her hands. She was the mission's cultural expert and had spent years preparing for this meeting. "Admiral, I've been studying the communication patterns from the aliens. They use a very formal structure in their messages. We should be prepared for lengthy ceremonies and protocols." Sarah smiled slightly. "Good thing we brought our best diplomats then." In the ship's main conference room, Ambassador David Park was reviewing his notes one final time. He was a career diplomat who had negotiated treaties between Earth's nations for 20 years. Now he faced his greatest challenge. The weight of representing all of humanity pressed on his shoulders like a physical force. Dr. Lisa Morrison, the team's xenobiologist, was analyzing the biological data they had received about the different alien species. "From what we can tell, the Confederation includes at least 12 different species. The dominant ones seem to be the Veltar, who look like large serpents with multiple arms. There are also the Zephyrians, who appear to be made of living crystal, and something called the hive minds, which might be insect-like collective intelligences." The hours passed slowly as they approached the station. Sarah walked through the ship, checking on her crew and the precious cargo they carried. In one section she found Dr. Emma Thompson, Earth's leading medical researcher, preparing samples of human medical advances to share with the aliens. "We've cured most cancers, eliminated genetic diseases, and developed treatments for aging," Dr. Thompson explained. "If the aliens have similar biological challenges, this could be incredibly valuable to them." In another section, engineer Carlos Rivera was checking the art collection one more time. "We have the Mona Lisa original batch manuscripts, sculptures from every major civilization, and digital archives of our greatest films and literature. This represents thousands of years of human creativity." Sarah felt pride swell in her chest. Humanity was offering the best of itself to these aliens. They came in peace, with open hands and generous hearts. Finally, the Olive Branch reached Nexus Point 7. The station was beyond anything humans had imagined. It looked like a small city floating in space, with towers and platforms extending in all directions. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. "We're being hailed by the station. They're requesting permission to board and inspect our vessel." Sarah straightened her uniform. "Grant permission. Tell them we welcome their inspection and look forward to the meeting." Within an hour, alien shuttles docked with the Olive Branch. Sarah and her senior staff waited in the main airlock as the aliens came aboard. The first to enter was clearly a Veltar. It was 3 meters tall with a serpentine body covered in scales that shifted from green to blue in the light. It had 4 arms and a head that moved with liquid grace. Behind the Veltar came a Zephyrian, its crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns. It moved without sound, seeming to glide rather than walk. The third alien was the most disturbing to human eyes. The hive mind representative looked like a collection of insects that had somehow learned to work together. In the shape of a humanoid form, the Veltar spoke first, its voice translated by advanced devices into perfect English. "I am Sub-Commander Rothkar of the Confederation Inspection Corps. We will examine your vessel for weapons and dangerous materials before you are permitted to approach the Council." Sarah stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the Olive Branch. I am Admiral Sarah Chun, representing the United Earth Government. We submitted complete technical specifications of our vessel as requested. You'll find we carry no weapons." Rothkar's scaled head tilted. "All species say they come in peace. Few speak truth." The inspection took 3 hours. The aliens examined every section of the ship with devices that seemed to see through solid matter. They studied the art collection with expressions Sarah couldn't read. When they found the medical supplies, they took samples for analysis. Throughout the inspection, Sarah noticed the aliens communicating with each other in ways humans couldn't detect. The hive mind representative would sometimes stand perfectly still for long moments, apparently receiving information from some collective intelligence. The Zephyrian's crystalline body would change, color and patterns that seemed to convey meaning. When the inspection was complete, Rothkar returned to Sarah. "Your vessel is cleared for approach to the Council chamber. You will have 2 hours to present humanity's petition to join the Confederation." As the alien shuttles departed, Dr. Wright approached Sarah with concern in his eyes. "Admiral, I was monitoring their scanning equipment. They weren't just looking for weapons. They were analyzing everything about our technology, our biology, even our psychological responses." Sarah frowned. "What do you mean?" "I think they were evaluating us as much as inspecting us." "The question is, evaluating us for what?" The olive branch was directed to a docking bay deep within the station. As they moved through the structure, Sarah watched thousands of alien beings moving through corridors and chambers. She saw species she couldn't identify, technologies that seemed impossible, and ships that defied human understanding of physics. Ambassador Park joined her on the bridge. "Admiral, I've been thinking about their communication style. Something feels off. They're being polite, but there's an undertone I can't identify." Sarah nodded. She had felt it too. Despite the formal courtesy, there was something cold about the alien interactions. They docked at a platform surrounded by guards from multiple species. Sarah and her diplomatic team disembarked, carrying samples of humanity's gifts. The station's artificial gravity felt strange under their feet, and the air carried scents they couldn't identify. A new escort waited for them. This time it was a Veltar who introduced himself as Ambassador Calthanos. He was larger than the previous aliens, with scales that seemed to shift from gold to silver. His forearms moved with practiced diplomatic gestures. "Welcome to Nexus Point 7, Calthanos sighed. "The Council is eager to hear what humanity offers to the Confederation." As they walked through the station's corridors, Sarah saw other species watching them with curiosity. Some seemed friendly, but others looked at the humans with expressions that made her uncomfortable. She began to wonder if all species in the Confederation had joined willingly. The Council chamber was enormous, with seating for hundreds of beings from dozens of species. At the center was a raised platform where the humans would make their presentation. Around the chamber, holographic displays showed information in languages Sarah couldn't read. "You have 2 hours, Calthanos told them. "Present your case for why humanity should be admitted to the Confederation." Ambassador Park stepped forward first. He activated a holographic display showing Earth and its solar system. "Honored members of the Confederation, humanity comes before you in peace and friendship. We offer not conquest or dominance, but partnership and mutual growth." The presentation began. Dr. Thompson showed humanity's medical advances, demonstrating treatments that could extend life and eliminate diseases. Engineer Rivera displayed human art and culture, playing music that filled the chamber with haunting melodies and showing paintings that captured the beauty of Earth. Dr. Morrison presented humanity's unique approaches to problem-solving, showing how humans had overcome environmental challenges, resource limitations, and social conflicts through creativity and cooperation. Throughout the presentation, Sarah watched the alien faces in the audience. Some seemed genuinely interested, but others appeared bored or dismissive. The Veltar delegation, in particular, showed little reaction to humanity's offerings. When the formal presentation ended, the council members began asking questions. Most were about human technology and resources. How many planets did humanity control? What was Earth's population? What raw materials were available in human space? Very few questions were about human culture, philosophy, or potential contributions to galactic civilization. As the session continued, Sarah began to feel uneasy. This didn't feel like a diplomatic negotiation between equals. It felt more like an evaluation, as if humanity was being appraised rather than welcomed. The 2 hours ended, and Calthanos announced that the council would deliberate and provide their decision within one standard day. The humans were escorted to guest quarters within the station to wait. That night, as Sarah lay in her assigned room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The aliens had been polite, but never warm. They had shown interest in humanity's resources, but little enthusiasm for human ideas or culture. Dr. Wright came to her door just before midnight. "Admiral, I need to show you something. I've been analyzing the communication intercepts our ship picked up during the presentation." They went to a secure room where Wright activated his analysis equipment. "I've been trying to decode some of the alien communications. I can't understand the languages, but I can analyze the patterns and emotional content." He showed her waveforms and data streams on his screen. "Admiral, during our presentation about human medical advances, there was significant communication between the Veltar delegates. The emotional indicators suggest mockery or contempt." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. "Are you certain?" "The pattern is consistent. Every time we demonstrated something we thought was impressive, there were similar spikes in what appears to be derisive communication between certain alien factions." Sarah stared at the data. "They're not impressed by what we're offering. Worse than that, Admiral. I think they see us as primitives. The question is, what do they plan to do about it?" Neither of them slept well that night. As dawn approached in the station's artificial day cycle, Sarah gathered her team for breakfast. Everyone looked tired and worried. "I think we need to prepare for the possibility that this negotiation isn't going the way we hoped," she told them quietly. Ambassador Park nodded grimly. "I've been in enough negotiations to recognize when the other side has already made up their minds. I don't think they ever intended to accept us as equals." Dr. Morrison looked up from her food. "I've been watching the other species in the station. Some of them look at us with what I can only describe as pity." "Pity?" Sarah asked. "Like they know something we don't, like they've been where we are before." The summons came at exactly noon, station time. The humans were escorted back to the council chamber, where the alien delegates had assembled. This time, the atmosphere felt different. More formal, more final. Calthanos stood at the center of the chamber. His golden scales seemed to shine brighter than before, and his 4 arms gestured with authority. "The Confederation Council has reached its decision regarding humanity's petition for membership." Sarah felt her heart beating faster. Around her, her team stood at attention, waiting for the verdict that would determine humanity's future among the stars. The chamber fell silent except for the quiet hum of alien technology. In that moment, Sarah realized that everything was about to change for humanity, though she didn't yet understand how completely their world was about to be transformed. Calthanos raised all 4 of his arms, and the council chamber became completely silent. His golden scales seemed to pulse with light as he spoke. The Confederation Council has studied humanity's petition. We have examined your technology, your culture, and your capabilities. His voice carried through the chamber with mechanical precision. We have reached a unanimous decision. Sarah felt her chest tighten. Something in the alien's tone warned her that this would not be good news. Humanity will be granted limited membership in the Confederation, Calthanos continued. However, this membership comes with specific requirements that are not negotiable. Ambassador Park stepped forward. We're honored by your decision. What are these requirements? Calthanos turned his serpentine head toward Park, and Sarah saw something cold in his alien eyes. First, humanity will transfer control of all natural resources in your solar system to Confederation oversight. This includes all mining operations, energy production, and agricultural output. The human delegation exchanged worried glances. Dr. Wright whispered to Sarah, "That's essentially our entire economy," Calthanos continued without pause. Second, humanity will provide 40% of your adult population for workforce allocation throughout Confederation space. These individuals will be assigned to planets and stations where their labor is needed. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. You're talking about forced relocation of nearly 2 billion people. We prefer the term optimal resource distribution, Calthanos replied smoothly. Third, all human military vessels will be decommissioned. The Confederation will provide for your defense needs. Ambassador Park's diplomatic training kicked in despite his shock. These terms seem quite extensive. Surely we can negotiate adjustments that would be beneficial to both sides. A new voice spoke from the council. It was the Zephyrian representative, its crystalline body flashing with angry red light. Negotiation implies equality. You are not our equals. The hive mind delegate made a sound like 1,000 insects clicking their mandibles together. When translated, its words were even more chilling. Your species is young and weak. You should be grateful. We offer survival at all. Sarah stepped forward, her military instincts overriding diplomatic protocol. What you're describing isn't membership, it's conquest. Calthanos tilted his head in what might have been amusement. Conquest implies resistance. We are offering you a choice. And if we refuse these terms? Sarah asked, though she already feared the answer. The chamber filled with what sounded like alien laughter from multiple species. Calthanos' scales shifted to a darker gold. Then you refuse the protection of the Confederation. In this galaxy, species that refuse our protection rarely survive long. Dr. Morrison found her voice. Are you threatening us? We do not make threats, the Zephyrian replied, its crystal body now pulsing with deep red light. We simply explain. Reality, your species has developed faster than light travel, which means you now exist in the galaxy's attention. There are many species that would see humanity as resources to be harvested rather than beings to be protected. Calthanos gestured to a holographic display that appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed star maps with various sectors marked in different colors. The red zones represent territories controlled by species that do not share our benevolent approach to newly discovered civilizations. Some prefer to exterminate potential competitors. Others simply take what they want without offering any form of membership at all. Sarah studied the map. The red zones seemed to surround human space on multiple sides. How convenient that these hostile species happen to be positioned around our territory. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Calthanos said. We offer protection and order. The alternative is chaos and likely extinction. Ambassador Park tried one more diplomatic approach. Surely there must be some middle ground. Humanity has much to offer as a partner rather than a subordinate member. The hive mind delegates' insect-like components rearrange themselves in agitation. Your medical technology is primitive compared to ours. Your art is crude emotional expression without sophistication. Your science is centuries behind our achievements. What exactly do you imagine you could offer us as equals? Sarah felt anger building in her chest, but she forced herself to remain calm. Perhaps we could demonstrate more of our capabilities. You've only seen a small sample of human innovation. We have seen enough, Calthanos said firmly. You will. Have 72 standard hours to return to your homeworld and present these terms to your leadership. If you accept, we will begin the integration process immediately. If you refuse, dramatically. Well, we hope you will not refuse. The council session ended abruptly. The human delegation was escorted back to their ship by guards who no longer bothered with polite conversation. Sarah noticed that their route to the docking bay was different from before, taking them through sections of the station where they saw things that made her stomach turn. In one area, she glimpsed beings that looked humanoid but moved with the mechanical precision of robots. Dr. Morrison whispered, "Those might have been a species like us once." In another section, they passed work crews of various alien species performing menial labor under the supervision of Veltar overseers. The workers moved with the beaten-down posture of slaves. Once they were back aboard the Olive Branch and had undocked from the station, Sarah called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. The ship's conference room felt different now, smaller, and more fragile than it had before. "Report," Sarah said simply. Dr. Wright was the first to speak. "Admiral, I was monitoring communications throughout the council session. The emotional analysis is clear. They were never negotiating with us. This was a demand for surrender disguised as diplomacy." Ambassador Park nodded grimly. "I've been in enough international negotiations to recognize when the other side has already decided the outcome. They wanted to see how we'd react to their demands, not discuss alternatives." Dr. Morrison had been studying her xenobiology notes. "I think we've been completely misunderstanding the Confederation's nature. This isn't a voluntary alliance of species. It's an empire built on subjugation." Lieutenant Commander Santos added, "The cultural analysis supports that. Every interaction pattern suggested hierarchy and dominance, not cooperation." Sarah looked around the table at her team. These were good people who had volunteered for this mission, believing they were opening a new chapter in human history. Instead, they had discovered that humanity faced a choice between slavery and extinction. "Dr. Wright, what's our communication status?" she asked. "We can send messages back to Earth, but they'll be monitored by Confederation systems. Anything we transmit will be intercepted and analyzed." Sarah made a decision. Send a coded message to Earth Command. Use Protocol 7 encryption. Tell them we need to speak with the Global Security Council immediately upon our return. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Sarah found herself thinking about everything she had observed at the station. The more she analyzed it, the more convinced she became that the Confederation had no intention of honoring even their harsh terms. Dr. Morrison spent the journey studying recordings of the alien species they had encountered. "Admiral, I keep coming back to something troubling. In all our research about galactic civilizations, we theorized that successful spacefaring species would need to be cooperative and peaceful to survive long enough to develop advanced technology. And?" Sarah prompted, "The Confederation proves that theory wrong. They've succeeded through domination and exploitation, which means they've likely eliminated any species that tried to resist them." 2 days from Earth, they received a transmission that made Sarah's blood run cold. It was from Kelthanos, broadcast on open channels so that Earth's monitoring stations would receive it. "Admiral Chung, we hope your journey home is pleasant. We wanted to share some good news with you. The Confederation has decided to demonstrate our commitment to peaceful relations with humanity." The transmission included coordinates for New Geneva, one of humanity's outer research colonies. It was home to 50,000 scientists and their families, working on terraforming projects in a system 4 light-years from Earth. We have dispatched a small patrol to New Geneva to ensure their safety during this negotiation period. We would hate for anything unfortunate to happen to them, while Earth considers our generous offer. Sarah felt sick. The aliens weren't just threatening Earth. They were taking hostages. The next transmission came 18 hours later. Dr. Emma Foster, the colony director of New Geneva, appeared on screen with tears in her eyes. Behind her, Sarah could see the strange architecture of alien ships through the colony's windows. "Earth Command, this is New Geneva Colony. We have been visited by representatives of the Galactic Confederation. They tell us they are here for our protection during the current negotiations. Dr. Foster's voice was steady, but Sarah could see the fear in her eyes. They have asked us to send this message to confirm that we are safe and well treated. The transmission ended abruptly. But not before Sarah caught a glimpse of Veltar guards in the background, their weapons clearly visible. When the olive branch finally reached Earth orbit, Sarah was met by shuttles carrying the most senior military and political leaders of humanity. President Elena Vasquez herself came aboard, along with General Marcus Stone, the head of Earth's unified military command. In the ship's briefing room, Sarah presented everything they had learned. She showed recordings of the council session, analysis of alien communications, and the hostage situation at New Geneva. President Vasquez listened in growing horror. So, our choices are slavery or extinction. It's worse than that, Sarah replied. I don't think they intend to honor their terms even if we accept. Based on what we observed, species that submit to the Confederation don't remain independent for long. They become completely absorbed, their populations scattered across Confederation. Space as laborers, General Stone leaned forward. What about our military capabilities? How do we compare? Dr. Wright answered, their technology is more advanced, but not impossibly so. The real issue is numbers. The Confederation represents hundreds of worlds and trillions of beings. We're one planet with 8 billion people. But, Sarah added, there's something they don't know about us. Something they couldn't learn from their inspection. Which is? President Vasquez asked. Sarah stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth below. They think we're weak because we came in peace. They think we're naive because we offered to share our knowledge freely. They don't understand that we chose peace, not because we lack the capacity for war, but because we know its true cost. She turned back to face the room. Every species they've conquered before probably developed spaceflight by first conquering their homeworld. They achieved unity through domination. We achieved it through cooperation after millennia of the most brutal warfare in galactic history. General Stone's eyes began to show understanding. You're saying they don't know what humans are capable of when we're actually threatened. Exactly. They see our peaceful approach as weakness. They have no idea what humanity becomes when we have no choice but to fight. President Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she asked, Admiral, what do you recommend? Sarah had been thinking about this question for weeks. Madam President, I recommend we send them our answer. But not the answer they expect. What do you mean? Sarah smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. They want to know if we choose submission or destruction. I say we choose a third option. The room was silent as everyone waited for her to explain, we choose war. But not the kind of war they understand. Not the kind they can fight with their superior numbers and technology. Sarah's voice grew harder. We choose the kind of war that humans invented. The kind that turns their strengths into weaknesses and their size into a liability. General. Stone nodded slowly. Asymmetric warfare. More than that, Sarah replied. Total war. The kind that doesn't end until one side no longer exists. President Vasquez looked around the room at her advisors. Each of them nodded in turn. The decision was unanimous. Admiral Chun, the president said formally, I want you to prepare our response to the Confederation. But first, I want you to activate the Damocles Protocol. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The Damocles Protocol was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a contingency plan developed in case first contact went catastrophically wrong. It had been prepared in hidden facilities across Earth and its colonies, but never activated. Are you certain, Madam President? Once Damocles is active, there's no going back. President Vasquez nodded grimly. They wanted to give us a choice. Between slavery and death? Let's show them there was a third option they never considered. As the meeting broke up and officials rushed to implement the president's orders, Sarah remained behind. Looking out at Earth, in 72 hours, she would transmit humanity's answer to the Confederation. She just hoped that when the aliens received it, they would finally understand what they had awakened. Humanity had offered them friendship and been met with contempt. They had offered peace and been answered with threats. Now they would offer the Confederation something entirely different. Something the aliens had never encountered before, despite their millennia of conquest and domination. They would offer them humanity's true nature revealed at last. And Sarah suspected that when the aliens finally understood what humans really were beneath their peaceful exterior, they would realize they had made the worst mistake in galactic history. The countdown to humanity's answer had begun. And for the first time since leaving the alien station, Sarah smiled with genuine anticipation. President Elena Vasquez stood in the emergency session room deep beneath Geneva, surrounded by the most powerful people on Earth. The Global Security Council had been meeting for 6 hours straight, and the weight of their decision pressed down. On everyone present around the table sat the leaders of every major nation, military commanders, scientists, and intelligence chiefs. General Marcus Stone sat across from Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology. Both looked exhausted but grimly determined. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Vasquez began, "we all know why we're here. Admiral Chun has briefed U.S. on the Confederation's ultimatum. We have less than 48 hours to give them our answer." Chancellor Weber of the European Federation leaned forward. "Madam President, some of my advisors believe we should seriously consider their terms. 40% of our population is a terrible price, but it's better than complete extinction, is it?" asked Prime Minister Nakamura of the Pacific Alliance. Admiral Chun's report suggests that species who submit to the Confederation don't remain independent for long. We'd just be choosing a slower form of extinction. General Stone activated a holographic display showing military assessments. "I've run every simulation our computers can manage. In a direct military confrontation, we lose. Their technology isn't vastly superior, but their numbers are overwhelming. They represent hundreds of worlds against our one." Dr. Tanaka spoke, up from her position at the far end of the table. "But there's something important that everyone needs to understand. The Confederation has never encountered a species like humanity." All eyes turned to her. President Vasquez nodded for her to continue. "I've spent the last 3 weeks analyzing every piece of data we gathered about alien psychology and social structures. Every species in the Confederation follows the same basic pattern. They achieve spaceflight by first conquering their homeworld, then expanded outward. They understand conquest, domination, and hierarchy. And humans are different how?" asked General Stone. Dr. Tanaka stood and paced as she spoke. "We're the only species they've encountered that achieved unity through cooperation after millennia of devastating warfare. Every other species either conquered their world quickly or destroyed themselves trying. We did something unique. We learned from our conflicts and chose peace." "I'm not sure I see how that helps us," Chancellor Weber said. "It helps because they've never faced an enemy that truly understands war," Dr. Tanaka replied. "They know conquest, but conquest is just organized violence. War is something completely different. War is when survival itself is at stake and everything else becomes irrelevant." President Vasquez looked around the table. "Dr. Tanaka, are you saying we should fight them?" "Madam President, I'm saying we're the only species in the galaxy that knows how to fight a war where losing means extinction. The Confederation has never faced that kind of enemy because every species that knew how to fight like that either joined them willingly or was destroyed before they could respond." General Stone pulled up another display. "There is one factor in our favor. The Confederation's size works against them in some ways. They're spread across hundreds of systems, which means their response times are measured in weeks or months, not hours or days." "Explain," said the president. "If we can strike hard and fast, we can cause significant damage before they can coordinate a response. The problem is that we can only do it once. After that, they'll adapt and overwhelm us with sheer numbers." Admiral Chin, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke. Unless we change the rules of the game entirely. She stood and activated her own display, showing the deep space monitoring data from the past month. Since we returned from the Confederation station, our long-range sensors have detected 43 alien ships entering human space. They're not just monitoring us. They're positioning for invasion. So they never intended to honor the 72-hour deadline, President Vasquez concluded. Exactly. They're already implementing their takeover. The negotiation was just a distraction to keep us calm while they moved into position. Foreign Minister Chun Wei of the Asian Republic raised her hand. Even if we could win a military conflict, which seems unlikely, what about the 50,000 hostages at New Geneva? The room fell silent. Everyone knew that any military action would likely result in the massacre of the colonists. Admiral Chun's expression hardened. That's exactly why we can't negotiate with them. They took hostages to control our response. If we give in now, they'll know they can control us by threatening our people. Next time, it won't be 50,000 hostages. It'll be entire worlds, General Stone nodded. From a strategic standpoint, the Admiral is correct. If we establish that threatening civilians controls our military decisions, we've already lost. President. Vasquez closed her eyes for a moment, thinking about 50,000 innocent people who were about to become casualties of a war they never asked for. What about evacuation possibilities? None, Admiral Chun replied. The aliens have control of the system. Any rescue attempt would be detected long before we could reach the colony. Dr. Tanaka cleared her throat. There's one other factor we should consider. The psychological impact on the Confederation of losing to us would be enormous. They've never been defeated by a newly discovered species. If we can inflict significant casualties, it might cause internal fractures in their alliance. Explain, said the President. The Confederation is held together by the belief in their invincibility. If a single human world can hurt them badly enough, other subjugated species might see an opportunity to rebel. The Confederation would have to deal with uprisings across their entire territory. General Stone looked thoughtful. A galaxy-wide revolution. That could work in our favor. But it would require us to inflict damage that makes resistance look possible. President Vasquez turned to Admiral Chun. Admiral, I need your honest assessment. Can we hurt them badly enough to make this strategy work? Admiral Chun was quiet. For a long moment. Madam President, if we activate the Damocles Protocol, we can hurt them worse than they've ever been hurt before. But it will cost us everything we are. What do you mean? Damocles isn't just a military plan. It's a complete transformation of human civilization from a peaceful society into a war machine. Once we activate it, there's no going back. We become something different. The room was silent as everyone absorbed the implications. President Vasquez looked around the table one more time. I need a vote. All in favor of activating the Damocles Protocol and transmitting our rejection of the Confederation's ultimatum. 1. By one, hands rose around the table. Some hesitated, but eventually every person in the room voted in favor. The decision was unanimous. Very well, President Vasquez said formally. Admiral Chun, you are authorized to activate the Damocles Protocol immediately. How long until full implementation? 18 hours for basic activation. Full deployment will take several days, but the initial phase will be ready before our deadline. As the meeting broke up, people filed out to begin the most massive mobilization in human history. President Vasquez remained behind with Admiral Chun and General Stone. Admiral, I need to know exactly what we're unleashing, the President said. Quietly, Admiral Chun activated a secure terminal. Damocles has been in development for 15 years, ever since we achieved faster-than-light travel. We knew that first contact might not go well, so we prepared for the worst-case scenario. The display showed a map of human space with hundreds of previously unknown installations marked in red. We have weapons platforms hidden in asteroid belts, sleeper ships disguised as commercial vessels, and manufacturing facilities built inside moons and planets. Good Lord, General Stone whispered. How did we keep this secret? Compartmentalization. Each facility was built by different groups who thought they were working on separate projects. Only a handful of people knew the full scope. President Vasquez studied the display. What kind of weapons are we talking about? Everything from antimatter warheads to biological agents designed specifically for alien physiologies. We also have something the Confederation has never encountered: adaptive warfare systems. Meaning? Admiral Chun smiled grimly. Our AIs can analyze alien technology in real time and develop countermeasures faster than organic minds can adapt. Every time they change tactics, our systems learn and respond. General Stone pointed to several marked locations. What are these? Facilities, cloning, and genetic modification centers. If this war lasts long enough, we may need to enhance human capabilities to match alien advantages. President Vasquez felt a chill. We're talking about changing ourselves into something inhuman. Madam President, the aliens have already decided that humanity as we know it will cease to exist. Our choice is whether we become extinct or evolve into something that can survive. Over the next 18 hours, installations across human space came online. On the moon, weapons facilities that had been disguised as mining operations revealed their true purpose. In the asteroid belt, manufacturing plants began producing warships at an impossible rate. In deep space, sleeper ships that had been drifting for years suddenly activated and began moving toward alien positions. These weren't exploration vessels or cargo haulers. They were weapons platforms designed to look like civilian craft until the moment they struck. Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked with teams of psychologists and xenobiologists to develop psychological warfare tactics specifically designed for alien minds. They studied every species in the Confederation, identifying fears, cultural weaknesses, and psychological triggers that could be exploited. Meanwhile, Admiral Chun prepared for the most important: communication in human history. In 6 hours, she would transmit Earth's response to the Confederation's ultimatum. The message would not be what the aliens expected. 3 hours before the deadline, Admiral Chun received a priority transmission from New Geneva Colony, Dr. Emma. Foster's face appeared on screen, but this time she looked different. There was determination in her eyes instead of fear. Admiral Chun, this is New Geneva Colony. We know about the Damocles activation. We received the coded transmission. She paused, glancing off camera where alien guards were presumably watching. We want you to know that we understand the situation. We're not asking for rescue. Admiral. Chun felt her throat tighten. Dr. Foster. We're scientists, Admiral. We understand probability and survival rates. If submitting to their demands only delays human extinction, then resistance is the logical choice. Dr. Foster's voice was steady and calm. We've had good lives. Use our sacrifice to give humanity a future. The transmission ended. Admiral Chun stood alone in her communications center, feeling the weight of 50,000 lives pressing down on her shoulders. 1 hour before the deadline, she received confirmation that all Damocles systems were online and ready. Hidden across human space, weapons that had never been tested were powering up. Soldiers who had trained in secret for years were taking their positions. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what happened when a species that had mastered the art of war decided that survival was worth any price. Admiral Chun sat down at her communication station and began recording the message that would change everything. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Government responding to the Confederation's ultimatum. Her voice was calm and professional, giving no hint of what was coming. We have considered your terms carefully. We have discussed them with our leadership and our people. We have reached a unanimous decision. She paused, thinking about Dr. Foster and the 50,000 colonists who would die for humanity's future. She thought about the billions of humans who had lived and died throughout history, building the civilization that the aliens wanted. To destroy, our answer is no. With those 3 words, Admiral Chun declared war on the galaxy, but she wasn't finished. The real message was just beginning. However, we want to thank you for teaching us something important about the galaxy. You've shown us that peace is viewed as weakness, that cooperation is seen as naivety, and that the only language your civilization understands is violence. She leaned closer to the camera, and her expression hardened. You've made one critical error in your assessment of humanity. You think we offer peace because we're weak. You think we're naive because we came to you with open hands and generous hearts. The transmission paused for a moment as Admiral Chun activated systems across human space. In asteroid belts and hidden facilities, weapons that had waited years for this moment began their deadly work. Let us correct your misunderstanding. We didn't offer you peace because we lacked the capacity for war. We offered you peace because we know exactly what war costs, and we hoped you were wise enough to avoid paying that price. Around New Geneva Colony, the first Confederation ships began to explode as weapons they never saw coming struck without warning. The hostages were doomed, but their sacrifice would not be meaningless. Admiral Chun's final words would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. You wanted to teach us that peace is for the weak. Consider the lesson learned. But now it's our turn to teach you something. You're about to discover what happens when you threaten the survival of a species that spent 50,000 years perfecting the art of warfare. The transmission ended, and the war for humanity's survival began. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, watching as humanity's true nature revealed itself across the galaxy. The massive displays showed dozens of star systems where hidden human assets were activating after years of patient waiting. The first strikes had been devastating. Around New Geneva Colony, 15 Confederation ships had been destroyed in the opening moments of the war. The alien commanders never saw the attacks coming because the weapons platforms had been disguised as asteroids for over 3 years. General Marcus Stone approached with a grim expression. Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the colony. The aliens executed all 50,000 hostages within minutes of your broadcast. Sarah felt the familiar weight of command settle on her shoulders. She had known this would happen, but that didn't make it easier to bear. Their sacrifice won't be forgotten, General. Make sure every human in the fleet knows what the Confederation did to our people. Dr. Yuki Tanaka looked up from her analysis station. Admiral, the psychological impact on the alien forces was immediate. Their communications show panic and, confusion. They'd never been ambushed by a supposedly inferior species. Good, Sarah replied. Fear is a weapon we can use. How are our sleeper assets performing? Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos answered from her position at the intelligence desk, better than expected. The Merchant's Dream has been operating in Confederation space for 2 years as a trading vessel. Yesterday, it destroyed an entire supply depot and disappeared before anyone realized what happened. Sarah nodded. The sleeper ships were one of humanity's greatest advantages. These vessels had been infiltrating alien space for years, gathering intelligence while appearing to be harmless civilian craft. Now they were revealing their true nature as advanced weapons platforms? What about the Biological Warfare Division? Sarah asked. Dr. Emma Thompson, who had transferred from the diplomatic mission to military research, provided the update. We've deployed targeted pathogens against 3 species so far. The Veltar are experiencing a plague that affects their nervous systems, making it impossible for them to coordinate large-scale military operations. Casualties? Sarah asked. Minimal. We're not trying to commit genocide. The pathogens are designed to incapacitate, not kill. We want them afraid, not extinct. This was part of humanity's strategy. Unlike the Confederation, which seemed to prefer complete subjugation or destruction, humans were fighting a war of psychological terror designed to break their enemies' will to fight. General Stone activated a new display showing the broader strategic situation. The Confederation is mobilizing their full military response. Intelligence estimates show they're preparing to deploy over 10,000 ships against us. Let them come, Sarah said calmly. The more ships they send, the more targets we have. Dr. Tanaka looked confused. Admiral, how can 10,000 enemy ships be an advantage? Sarah smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Because they're thinking like conquerors, not like warriors. They're trying to overwhelm us with superior numbers, which means they're concentrating their forces into predictable formations. She activated a holographic display showing human space. Every ship they send to attack us is a ship that's not protecting their own territory. And while they're focused on Earth, our sleeper assets are causing chaos throughout their empire. Lieutenant Commander Santos highlighted several star systems on the map. We have confirmed reports of uprisings on 7 Confederation worlds. The subjugated species are taking advantage of the chaos to rebel. Exactly as Dr. Tanaka predicted, Sarah noted. The Confederation's strength comes from the belief that resistance is hopeless. We're proving that belief wrong. General Stone pointed to another section of the display. We're also receiving offers of assistance from species that haven't fully joined the Confederation yet. The Kithara Collective has offered to share intelligence about Confederation ship movements. Sarah considered this development. Are we certain they're trustworthy? Dr. Tanaka answered. The Kithara are an interesting case. They've been resisting Confederation pressure for decades, but they've never had the military strength to fight back effectively. Our success is giving them hope that resistance is possible. Approved, Sarah decided. But keep the intelligence sharing limited. We don't know how deep Confederation infiltration goes. A new alarm sounded, and Operator First Class Jenkins called out from his monitoring station. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Confederation. It's marked as urgent diplomatic communication. Sarah exchanged glances with General Stone. Put it through. The main display activated, showing Calthanos in what appeared to be a command center aboard a massive alien vessel. His golden scales were darker than before, and his forearms moved with agitated gestures. Admiral Chun, he began without preamble. This unprovoked aggression must cease immediately. The Confederation offers one final opportunity for peaceful resolution. Peaceful? Sarah stepped into view of the camera. You murdered 50,000 innocent civilians. You call that peaceful? They were casualties of your unreasonable refusal to accept generous terms, Calthanos replied. Their deaths are on your conscience, not ours. Sarah felt anger building in her chest, but her voice remained steady. What are your new terms? Complete and immediate surrender. All human military assets will be turned over to Confederation control. In exchange, we will allow 70% of your population to survive as a labor force. General Stone whispered behind her. They're getting desperate. That's a worse offer than their original ultimatum. Sarah nodded almost imperceptibly. Calthanos was trying to negotiate from a position of strength, but his body language showed fear and uncertainty. Ambassador Calthanos, Sarah said formally, I have a counterproposal for you. The alien leaned forward, apparently surprised that she was willing to negotiate. You withdraw all Confederation forces from human space immediately. You release any human prisoners or hostages. You provide full reparations for the murder of our colonists. And you publicly acknowledge that humanity is not subject to Confederation authority. Calthanos' scales shifted to an angry red color. You are in no position to make demands. We have 10,000 ships moving toward your primitive world. Yes, Sarah agreed calmly. 10,000 ships that are now vulnerable to attack because you've pulled them away from defending your own territory. She gestured to Lieutenant Commander Santos, who activated a display showing real-time intelligence from across Confederation space. While you've been preparing your grand invasion fleet, our assets have destroyed 47 military installations, sabotaged 12 manufacturing facilities, and eliminated over 200 key military commanders through targeted biological agents. Calthanos stared at the display in obvious shock. Impossible. Our security is absolute. Your security was designed to prevent conquest, not infiltration, Sarah explained. You've never faced an enemy that spent years preparing for war while appearing completely peaceful. Dr. Tanaka stepped into view. Ambassador, we've been studying Confederation psychology for decades. We know that your society is built on the assumption of inevitable victory. But what happens to your alliance when that assumption proves false? You cannot defeat us. Kelthanos insisted, but his voice now carried a note of desperation. We represent hundreds of worlds, trillions of beings. And that's exactly your weakness, Sarah replied. You're fighting to maintain an empire. We're fighting for survival. History shows that survival always wins in the end. She leaned closer to the camera. But I'll make you another offer, Ambassador, a personal one. Kelthanos remained silent, waiting. Surrender yourself to human custody. Provide us with complete intelligence about Confederation military capabilities and strategic plans. Help us end this war quickly with minimal casualties on both sides. In exchange for what? We'll make sure you survive what's coming, Sarah sighed quietly. Because right now, you're the face of this war for your people. When they start looking for someone to blame for this disaster, whose name do you think they'll remember? For the first time since the conversation began, Kelthanos looked genuinely frightened. His scales shifted to a pale yellow color that Dr. Tanaka had identified as indicating extreme stress in Veltar psychology. The Confederation does not abandon its leaders, he said, but without conviction. The Confederation has never lost a war before, Sarah pointed out. Are you willing to bet your life that they won't decide you're responsible for this one? The transmission ended abruptly as Kelthanos cut the connection. General Stone turned to Sarah. Do you think he'll take the offer? Maybe, but that's not why I made it. The important thing is that we've planted doubt in his mind. If he starts questioning his own leadership's loyalty, he'll make mistakes. Dr. Tanaka was studying her psychological analysis data. Admiral, the conversation confirmed several important things about Confederation command structure. They're not used to being challenged, they have no experience with asymmetric warfare, and their decision-making process is slow and hierarchical. All advantages we can exploit, Sarah agreed. What's the status of our adaptive AI systems? Lieutenant Commander Santos checked her displays. The A's have analyzed 17 different types of Confederation ships and weapons. They've developed countermeasures for all of them. More importantly, they've identified critical vulnerabilities in the aliens' communication networks. Explain. The Confederation uses a centralized command system that depends on quantum entanglement communication. If we can disrupt those quantum links, their fleet coordination will collapse into chaos. Sarah felt excitement building. How long would it take to implement quantum disruption across their invasion fleet? The technology is already deployed on our sleeper ships. We just need to activate it when their fleet is in optimal position. General Stone looked concerned. What about the risk to our own communications? Human communication systems use a different quantum frequency, Dr. Thompson explained. We'll be unaffected. Sarah made her decision. Prepare for full activation of quantum communication disruption, but wait for my order. We want their entire invasion fleet committed before we reveal this capability. As her staff dispersed to implement the new strategy, Sarah remained in the war room, studying the tactical displays. Humanity was fighting for its survival against overwhelming odds, but they were proving that superior numbers meant nothing against superior strategy. The Confederation had made the mistake of assuming that all species thought like conquerors. They couldn't understand an enemy that was willing to sacrifice everything for survival, that could wait years to strike, that could turn their own strength against them. But the real war was just beginning. The Confederation's invasion fleet was still 6 days away from Earth. When it arrived, humanity would face its ultimate test. Sarah touched a control that opened a secure channel to all human forces across the galaxy. Her voice carried to soldiers, spies, and civilians who were all part of humanity's desperate gamble. This is Admiral Chun. In 6 days, the enemy will arrive at Earth in numbers designed to terrify us into surrender. They believe that overwhelming force will break our will to fight. She paused, thinking about the 50,000 colonists who had died, the billions of humans depending on her decisions, and the species across the galaxy that were watching to see if resistance was possible. They're wrong. Humanity has never surrendered to superior numbers. We didn't surrender to ice ages, plagues, or natural disasters. We didn't surrender when our own planet tried to kill us. We won't surrender now. Her voice grew harder, carrying the weight of humanity's entire history of struggle and survival. In 6 days, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten the survival of a species that has spent its entire existence learning how to win against impossible odds. Stand ready, the real war begins now. The transmission ended, and across human space, 8 billion people prepared to fight for their very existence. They had no idea if they would survive the coming battle, but they knew one thing with absolute certainty: if humanity fell, it would not go quietly into extinction. The galaxy would remember what had happened here, and that memory would haunt the Confederation for generations to come. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the observation deck of the Orbital Defense Station, watching the Confederation's invasion fleet emerge from hyperspace. The alien armada was massive beyond imagination, over 10,000 ships of various sizes stretched across space like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. General Marcus Stone joined her at the viewing port. "Admiral, our sensors confirm the count. 10,347 vessels. The largest fleet in recorded galactic history." Sarah remained calm as she studied the approaching ships. "And every single one of them is exactly where we want them to be." The past 6 days had been the most intense in human history. Across Earth and its colonies, billions of people had worked around the clock to prepare for this moment. Weapons platforms hidden for years were fully activated. Sleeper ships throughout Confederation space had moved into optimal positions. Most importantly, humanity's adaptive AI systems had finished analyzing every piece of alien technology they could access. Dr. Yuki Tanaka approached with her latest psychological analysis. "Admiral, we're intercepting Confederation communications. Their fleet commanders are confident this will be a quick victory. They're planning a demonstration bombardment of Earth's major cities to force immediate surrender." Perfect," Sarah replied. "Overconfidence is exactly what we need from them." Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos called out from the command center. "Admiral, the Confederation fleet is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding to speak with Earth's leadership. Put them through to the main display." The massive screen activated, showing Calthanos aboard what was clearly the Confederation's flagship. Behind him, Sarah could see dozens of different alien species working at command stations. The ship's bridge was enormous, designed to intimidate anyone who saw it. "Admiral Chun," Calthanos began, his golden scales now gleaming with apparent triumph. "As you can see, we have brought a force sufficient to eliminate all resistance. This will be your final opportunity to surrender." Sarah stepped into view of the camera, her expression completely calm. "Ambassador, I'm impressed. This is certainly the largest collection of targets we've ever seen in one place." Calthanos' confidence faltered slightly. "Targets? Admiral, you face the combined might of the Galactic Confederation. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us." "You're probably right," Sarah agreed. "Our primitive weapons probably can't harm you. Fortunately, we're not using primitive weapons." She gestured to Dr. Emma Thompson, who activated a display showing the quantum communication network that connected the Confederation fleet. "For the past 6 days, our sleeper ships have been infiltrating your communication network. Your fleet coordination depends entirely on quantum entanglement links, doesn't it?" Calthanos leaned forward, suddenly looking worried. "What have you done?" "We've learned how to break quantum entanglement," Sarah said simply. "Dr. Thompson, activate the quantum disruption field." Across space, hidden devices aboard dozens of human sleeper ships simultaneously generated a specific quantum frequency pulse. The effect on the Confederation fleet was immediate and catastrophic. The aliens' perfect formation instantly dissolved into chaos as ships lost contact with their commanders. Vessels that had been moving in coordinated patterns suddenly began colliding with each other as their navigation systems failed. The massive flagship lurched sideways as its autopilot systems crashed. On the main display, Calthanos was shouting orders that no one could hear. His communication network had been completely severed. Sarah opened a channel to all human forces. All ships, all platforms, all assets, execute Order Damocles. Show them what humans do to those who threaten our survival. What followed was unlike any battle in galactic history. Human weapons platforms hidden in asteroids throughout the solar system opened fire simultaneously. But these weren't conventional energy weapons or missiles. These were devices that had been designed specifically to exploit the weaknesses human intelligence had identified in alien technology. The first wave of attacks targeted the Confederation's largest ships with weapons that generated localized gravity anomalies. The alien vessels, designed to operate in normal space, were crushed by artificial black holes that appeared and disappeared in microseconds. The second wave used biological agents that had been engineered to attack the life support systems of different alien species. Veltar ships found their atmosphere becoming toxic. Zephyrian vessels discovered that their crystalline hulls were being dissolved by airborne NANOBOTS. But the most devastating attacks were psychological. Human AI systems had spent weeks analyzing alien communication patterns, cultural references, and behavioral triggers. Now they broadcast targeted psychological warfare directly into the minds of different species. Veltar commanders found themselves paralyzed by artificial pheromones that triggered their species' deepest fears. Hive mind ships lost cohesion as their collective consciousness was flooded with contradictory information. Zephyrian crews became catatonic as their crystalline neural networks were overloaded with chaotic resonance frequencies. Within the first hour of battle, over 3,000 Confederation ships had been disabled or destroyed. The remaining vessels were scattered across the solar system, their crews either dead, incapacitated, or fleeing in panic. Sarah watched the destruction with mixed feelings. This was not how she had wanted humanity's first major space battle to unfold. But the aliens had given them no choice. General Stone reported from his tactical station. Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from over 200 ships. They're offering to switch sides. Accepted, Sarah replied immediately. But keep them under close surveillance. This could be a trick. Dr. Tanaka was monitoring alien communications across the galaxy. Admiral, the psychological impact is spreading beyond the battle zone. We're receiving reports of uprisings on 37 Confederation worlds. The subjugated species are interpreting our victory as proof that the Confederation can be defeated. Sarah felt a moment of hope. Maybe this war could end without the complete annihilation she had feared, but that hope was short-lived. A new signal appeared on their sensors. Something massive was approaching from deep space, larger than anything in the Confederation fleet. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Santos called out urgently. We're detecting a ship that's impossible. It's over 50 kilometers long and appears to be made of some kind of living metal. The new vessel emerged from hyperspace with an energy signature that dwarfed everything else in the system combined. Sarah realized with growing dread that this was the Confederation's ultimate weapon, something they had never revealed to anyone. A communication signal came from the massive ship, but this time the voice was different. It wasn't Calfanos or any species they had encountered before. Humans, the voice said, carrying overtones that seemed to vibrate through their bones. I am the Eternal One, first among the Confederation Council. Your resistance ends now? Sarah stared at the impossible ship on her display. I thought the Veltar were the dominant species in the Confederation. The Veltar are servants? The voice replied, apparently having overheard her comment. As are all the species you have encountered. The true rulers of the Confederation are far more ancient than your primitive minds can comprehend. Dr. Tanaka was frantically analyzing the new signals. Admiral, this isn't just a ship. It's some kind of hybrid of technology and biology. The energy readings suggest it's been alive for thousands of years. Sarah felt a chill as she realized the implications. The Confederation wasn't just an alliance of conquering species. It was controlled by something far older and more dangerous. Eternal One, Sarah said formally, what are your terms? There are no terms, the ancient being replied. Your species has proven too dangerous to be allowed to exist. You will be. Exterminated completely. Your worlds will be sterilized. Your history will be erased from galactic records. And if we refuse to cooperate with our own extinction? The massive ship began to glow with an energy that human sensors couldn't properly measure. Refusal is not possible. I have consumed 1,000 civilizations over the millennia. Yours will simply be the 1,001st. Sarah looked around. A command center at her staff. These were good people who had followed her into what they all knew might be humanity's final battle. They deserved to know the truth. All stations, this is Admiral Chun. It appears we've discovered the real enemy. The Confederation isn't an alliance of equals. It's a feeding system for something that's been devouring civilizations for thousands of years. She paused, thinking about everything humanity had accomplished, everything they had built, everything they were about to lose. I won't lie to you. This entity is beyond anything we prepared for. Our weapons may not be sufficient to stop it, but that doesn't mean we surrender. She opened a channel to every human facility, every ship, every person who could hear her voice across human space. This is Admiral Sarah Chun, broadcasting on all frequencies. To every human listening, whether you're a soldier, a scientist, a farmer, or a child, we are about to face extinction at the hands of something that has destroyed 1,000 civilizations before us. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. But we are not like those 1,000 civilizations. We are humanity. We are the species that survived ice ages by learning to make fire. We are the species that conquered plagues by inventing medicine. We are the species that reached the stars by refusing to accept limitations. Around her, the command staff stood, straighter as her words reminded them of who they were. This ancient parasite thinks it can consume us like it consumed the others. It doesn't understand that humans don't simply die when faced with extinction. We evolve, we adapt. We become something that can survive. She activated the final protocol, the one that would change humanity forever. Activate the Genesis code. All citizens, prepare for species-wide enhancement. If this entity wants to consume humanity, it's going to find out that we're poisonous. Across human space, facilities that had been hidden even from the Damocles protocol came online. These contained technology that could alter human DNA in real time, enhancing physical capabilities, mental processing, and biological resilience beyond natural limits. The transformation began immediately. Humans across Earth and its colonies felt their bodies and minds changing, becoming something more than they had been. Enhanced strength, improved reflexes, expanded consciousness, and most importantly, immunity to the biological and psychological weapons that had allowed the Eternal One to consume other species. Sarah felt the change taking hold in her own body. Her vision sharpened, her mind processed information faster, and she gained an intuitive understanding of the alien technology around her. Eternal One, she said, her voice now carrying new harmonics that seemed to resonate with the ancient beings. Own communication method. You made one critical error in your assessment of humanity. The massive ship paused its approach, apparently surprised by the change in her voice. You assumed we were like the other 1,000 civilizations you've consumed. You thought we would fight with the same tactics, the same limitations, the same fear of change? Sarah smiled, and for the first time since the war began, it was a genuinely pleasant expression. But humans are the one species that becomes more dangerous when threatened with extinction. We don't just fight to survive. We evolve to survive. And now you're about to discover what happens when an entire species evolves specifically to kill you. Around Earth, the enhanced humans began activating weapons and technologies that hadn't existed even hours before. Their transformed minds could understand and control alien technology intuitively. Their enhanced bodies could survive in environments that would have killed unmodified humans. Most importantly, they were no longer afraid. The genetic enhancements had removed humanity's capacity for despair while enhancing their natural aggression and determination. The Eternal One finally understood what it faced. For the first time in millennia, it encountered prey that had transformed itself into a predator. The final battle for humanity's survival was about to begin, but now the odds had changed. The question was no longer whether humanity would survive. The question was whether anything else in the galaxy would survive humanity. Sarah Chun, no longer quite human but still carrying humanity's essence, prepared to lead her species into a new age. They had offered the galaxy peace and been answered with threats of extinction. Now they would offer the galaxy something else entirely. A demonstration of why threatening humanity's survival was the last mistake any species would ever make. The war was ending, but humanity's age of dominance was just beginning.